Welcome back to what's the go? Second episode.
Second episode.
Week. How we feeling? What's the go, Matt?
What is the go? What's good?
What's good?
What's good? Spin-off show.
Yeah. They copied us. But what have you been into this week, Matt?
You know what? This week a band I shoot for, Lounge Baby. They had a
I remember I saw that. Oh, amazing
jazzy.
At Cypher Brewery.
Yeah. Well, last weekend they played at a private function, this little party they invited on this farm.
Ooh.
And they invited me to come along. Free food, free drinks, and they just
living the dream, mate.
Yeah.
Mate, you're up.
It was like 3 hours of just,
Dang, laying back on a couple acres, listening to some jazz. What else could you ask for?
Yeah. While it was raining as well, so you had that like nice cool breeze coming in. We were under cover, so it was all fine.
That ambience.
Yeah, 100%. But what about you? What have you been up to?
Me this week? Oh man, I've been keeping my head down, just like going out. I've been doing a lot of editing for Spill the Scene. Last week we had a 2-year anniversary for SDS. Women's fundraiser, and it was amazing. So I'm just trying to perfect my craft.
There was a lot of bands there.
There were a lot of acts too. Huge amount of talent as well. Love all of them, man. Yeah. But that's my week wrapped up pretty much. All right. Well, so this week we had the amazing Brendan from D's Comics, Geek Expo, and Midnight Factory Express. So in this episode what do we talk? Just comics, nerd scene in Canberra.
How it's kind of growing and where it's
pretty much everything in between. And we did talk about a bit of reality TV.
Some great ideas that, if we get the budget.
We need some investors in this.
Yeah, Bill Shorten, if you're listening, we could always,
We did unfortunately run out of time, but this too was a really special episode because
he's such a special guy, and I've known him for... I was thinking about it last night. I've known him for 8 years.
Wow.
Like, the literal day that I graduated high school, I went into his shop. Yeah. So I've known him for so long, and it's just so great every time just having him on, just talking. And he's such an insightful guy. So
he's got a real passion for it, and you love to see. He really cares about the community. So it was an honor, honestly, having him on the show for the second week. Yeah.
Well, without further ado, enjoy.
What's the go?
Oh, good. Well, Brendan, why don't you introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Brendan from D's Comics, and also Geek Expo Events Australia and Midnight Factory Australia. So yes, I wear a few hats in the pop culture community, comic book community here in Australia.
A real staple in the community, aren't you?
Well, I wouldn't say staple, but I've been around for a while, and I'm like a cockroach. Every time someone thinks I got crushed or someone put a lunchbox on me or something, all of a sudden I'm back.
Always coming back.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of, let's go back. How did you get into comics in the first place?
Well, I've always loved comics since I discovered them as a kid, and I basically discovered comics the same way a lot of Aussie kids in the 80s did, with Tintin and Asterix being available at public libraries.
Yeah.
And so my mother was a social worker at the time, and she would meet with clients in a youth centre in the local town hall. And the library for the town hall and for the town was downstairs, and so I'd just hang out in there and read Asterix and Tintin comics. And I think the first actual comic books that I found were sort of in an old country newsagent, and it was The Phantom.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, like a lot of 80 kids who grew up in the 80s. Yeah, The Phantom was one of the first sort of superhero type comics that I saw. But it blew my mind when I finally saw American superhero comics in colour. And like I said, we lived kind of quite rural, so the local newsagent would get these leftover packs from city newsagents. And so you could only ever tell what the front comic was, and you get 3 comics per pack, and it was less than $2. but this is back in
yeah.
1984 and 1985. And so I started getting those like when I discovered the newsagent in town, and I kind of fell in love with comics like from the very beginning, from Tintin, to discovering superhero comics. But I just that love never faded. It just got stronger, if anything, and it's I've always loved storytelling, and I think comics are just this amazing way of like storytelling. Like it's a very unique art form in the sense that you're bringing together like a written narrative and like a visual narrative together, but it's in a way that's unlike film or unlike television. There's still a lot left up to the imagination in comic books because you kind of feel the moments between the panels.
Yeah.
In your mind, So it's almost like I wouldn't say it's like a halfway point, but it's like some of the best parts of enjoying a film and some of the best parts of sitting down and reading a good book. You get both of that in a comic.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And one of the things that I've always loved about comics is there's no limit on comics. So you can read some of the most insane stories that couldn't be done in other medias, just because there's always like a budgetary limit.
Yeah.
So special effects and the cost of creating special effects kind of limit you in film and then in sound it's the cost of recording equipment and all that sort of stuff. Comics, it's the cost of a pencil and a piece of paper. And if you can imagine it, you can put it down on the page. Yeah. And so you're really unrestricted in this like the sort of style of storytelling you can do in comics.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you have any like what other than the Phantom, of course, but like what do you remember like reading that really like from American comics? Like was it Marvel or DC?
DC were the first kind of color comics I saw. Yeah, and it's really funny because like I've always like since a teenager anyway, I've really been into like indie comics and horror comics and like sort of supernatural mystery. As a teenager, I thought I was a bit of an edgelord. It was horror and it's got to be dark and it's got to be extreme. But the superhero that I actually love the most is probably one of the cheesiest you can imagine. It's Green Lantern.
Green Lantern.
Sleeper pick.
That's
I'm
right.
Not gonna lie. Wow.
Magical jewelry, magical lantern, flying around. It's the police of the sky.
Can breathe in space too, right?
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah. And so, like despite this sort of erring towards the sort of darker and sort of edgier side of comics, the superhero I love the most is the one that lights everything up and makes things out of light with his mind.
Which Green Lantern specifically? Is this because they had a weird period, if I remember correctly?
Yeah. So there's per capita, the Earth just punches so far above its weight with Green Lanterns. Every other sector of space is, thousands and thousands of light years, and it's got one Green Lantern, and then you come to just Earth, not even our space sector, just Earth. And I think we've got like 6 at the moment.
Yeah, there's a number. Even though have you seen the trailer for the new Lanterns show?
No, I haven't.
Oh, okay.
I'll have to go and check that out. I didn't know such a thing existed.
Yeah, it came out, I think, last week as a recording.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
And it's, I think it's Hal Jordan? Yeah, Hal Jordan training up, he's gonna kick me.
Is it Kyle Rayner?
No.
Or John Stewart?
John Stewart. That's
Stewart,
it. Because that's the Green Lantern I remember growing up watching Justice League Unlimited.
Yeah. So John Stewart was one of the Green Lanterns that I first discovered in the comics. But he was never my favourite. Even though he was kind of like the star of Green Lantern at the time, I always really liked Kyle Rayner because he was an artist.
Yep.
And, he was a Green Lantern that was a little bit different. But I have to say, the OG is, I think, everybody's favourite. Like, Hal Jordan is such a dislikable and lovable character at the same time. Like, he's a massive douche. Yeah. But that's kind of why you like him. Yeah. And I particularly love it when they have Hal Jordan team up with Barry Allen. Yeah, and it's just like a classic comedy duo. And they're both meant to be like super smart and fearless. Yeah. But they act like idiots. And yeah, it's excellent. Yeah.
I think this new series has him as like he's older, grizzled, he's been Green Lantern for a while, he's a bit
Yeah.
disillusioned. He's just like, oh, all right, we're gonna,
Wait,
you
so
know.
is he like teaching someone else?
Yeah.
He's like how to be a lantern.
Yeah.
Yes.
Wow.
It's the tone they're going for is kind of a I think it's a murder mystery, but it's a western. And
Oh, cool.
so, yeah.
That actually sounds kind of cool.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I know there are a lot of complaints about like there's not enough green in the trailer, but it's a teaser. Like it's
Yeah.
hold off until it actually releases.
Yeah.
And what's been coming out from DC lately, I personally think is really good. So I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful for Gunn. So
Yeah.
you know, but yeah, it does seem interesting as like a almost true detective because it's, you know, the two of them. They're both kind of different views. You've got the Boy Scout John
Yeah.
Stewart who's new and
It's kind of like the buddy cop.
yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
rookie veteran kind of classic
Yeah.
trope. Yeah, that
Yeah.
sounds pretty cool. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah.
It's funny too. The other DC character that I immediately fell in love with when I first saw him was Shazam or Captain Marvel.
Captain Marvel.
And yeah, like he's called the Big Cheese for a reason. And yeah, like one of my criticisms of superhero comics has always been like, oh, sometimes they're pretty cheesy. But then the two characters that I love the most are like, it's the cheesiest of all Marvel and DC characters.
Yeah.
Yeah. But things definitely sort of like really ramped up with my comic love in the 90s. I was, you know, one of those kids of the 90s that got X-Men #1 with Jim Lee on art. And yeah, X-Men blew my mind in the 90s. And when I first discovered X-Men, I never got consistent issues, so I never got a full story. But I was just so fascinated by the characters.
The characters, yeah.
And then as we actually moved into the city, and I got to visit actual comic shops. That was my go-to for a long time in the 90s. You know, your X-Men characters, but then always loved Batman. Everyone loves Batman.
Everyone loves Batman.
Yeah,
Come
but
on.
yeah,
Can't get it
the
wrong.
launch of like Image really kind of changed my comic buying habits quite a lot. Yeah, so Spawn was kind of like so amazing at the time, and my young teenage brain just thought, this is so cool. It's like the best parts of a horror comic and the best parts of like a Marvel comic in one. This is amazing. And then everything else Image did at the time. It really hit the mark at the time. And you look back now and some of it is a bit cheesy, but a lot of the stuff we did in the 90s was pretty cheesy. Like,
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Yeah.
I think it's been a discussion lately online of the new One Piece TV series live actions come out.
Oh, yeah,
and there's people
yeah,
kind of
yeah.
having a go because it's so cheesy and it's so like, you know, but it's fun. It's kind of like that's the point. I feel like so much now is just so serious and just so you know it has to be realistic.
Have they not seen the anime or read the manga?
Exactly.
Because it's cheese.
It's so over the top.
It's so
and
cool.
it's-
Like, that's what makes it fun. Like I haven't really gotten into One Piece in a huge way, but my son is obsessed.
Oh yeah.
So I watch episodes with him occasionally, and I've read through some of the volumes with him, and it's so cheesy, but that's what makes it good.
Yeah.
It's just it's a story of fun and friendship, and I think sometimes with comics people forget they need to be fun.
Yeah.
And I think the creator was told several times too, like this is a little silly. It's a little cartoony. Like it's verging towards like a little kiddie.
Yeah.
And I think he just stuck to his guns. He was like, no, I like what I'm doing. This is cool. And I think other people resonated with it. And I think that's one of the coolest things. And like, as a parent anyway, you're always looking like when your kids really get into something, to sort of like see what the sort of core values are of that book or of that creator. And friendship is the main theme of One Piece. And, you know, being there for your friends, being loyal to your friends, checking in on your friends, all of those things are really, really important messages. So, you know, it's a great book for, I think, you know, tweens and teens to get into.
Yeah. I remember when the anime first aired in Australia. I remember it was like morning TV, something like that, and they had the dub and they had to change things. So Sanji initially smoked in it, but they changed it to a lollipop. And that was, it was like, so I remember like growing up with it, and then like I'm still reading it now when I can. But like my brother's gotten into it now, and like you say, your son. So it's like it's still going. It's still like it's going through.
Bigger than ever, really, isn't it? And I think 111 has just come out. Just dropped.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
And they're finally taking a break on the anime after 26 years, I want to say. I think it was 99.
How many seasons does that show have?
Technically one. Technically.
Oh,
because it was like constantly going. They were just constantly animating. So they've like, now it's their first break. And so technically this is season 2. But it's just arcs. It's just, you know, each one, like, it's contained. It's silly, the numbering, but... But it's going for, and it's like one of the biggest things in Japan, you know. I go into the One Piece store and having the big statues and stuff there, and it's filled with people. Yeah. You know, like it even if you're an adult, it's still fun. That, you know,
it's phenomenal. Like in publishing, to have any book that will continue to sell so many years later.
Yeah.
And with long-running series like that, to have new fans coming into it, like decades after it started. And coming into it like it's a brand new thing and just loving it. It's a real achievement. And there's not a lot of the big sort of comic and manga franchises that do achieve that. Even with like some of the Marvel and DC stuff, you know, like the characters are perpetual and ongoing, but the style of the characters and their stories, they go through periods, they go through really big changes.
Each writer has its own voice.
Yeah, and you'll... like people like myself, where, you know, I'll be really into Batman with a particular writer and a particular artist, but then I may not read Batman for a couple of years because nothing grabs me about the book, and I've moved on to a different character or a different writer or a different team.
I remember.
And so to sustain one series like that and keep bringing in new fans and having to keep reprinting those volumes, it's just phenomenal.
Yeah. I remember being at D's and the amount of times I go, which Batman comic, and, you know, having very specific tastes, because I think we're on the same, we like the investigating Batman, the detective, not so much the
punch him in the face.
I'm
a superhero Batman.
You
go to jail,
like
bad
Catwoman on a rooftop at the very end.
You got to keep those.
That was one of the first comics that I bought when I was a kid. We went into this store in Wollongong. And I was like, I'm just after a Batman comic. We walked into this like hella fancy comic store, right? And it's just flooded with comics. Even some of them are graded and, like, you know, I've got it in the sleeve and stuff. And I'm gonna presume you know about the Flintstones, how like that comic I remember being there and it costing so much. It was like $300. It was like, you know, it had the grade and everything, but I was like, oh, yeah, cool. So then I got a Batman that I couldn't like read, like, you know, while I was in the store, obviously, because it was in the sleeve. Keep it, and I was like 10 years old at the time, and he's kicking butt, and then like at the very end, like him and Catwoman are on a rooftop, and I'm like, okay, I'm
peak.
Yeah, peak. Yeah, but, yeah. That's my craziest comic. That was my first comic experience.
Yeah. Well, that's one of the cool things, I guess, about Batman. You know, like he's kind of like a pretty simple, one-dimensional character in lots of ways. You know, he dresses as a bat and punches two-fisted justice into the mentally ill of Gotham. But over the years, you know, Batman and Bruce Wayne, you know, have had relationships. There is this world that he exists in. You know, he has his wards and sidekicks and but at the end of the day, like, I think that's one of the things with superhero characters. There's always like a couple of core things that make up a character, and fans hate it when any of those core things change. Even if it is like for the sake of a story. So like a good example was there was a Secret Empire story that Marvel did, where one of the final pages of the first issue was Captain America, who had now become Captain Hydra.
That's right.
Saying, "Hail Hydra." And this reveal that he'd been like working for Hydra the entire time. And people lost their minds. People were burning Captain America comics and just like losing it. And it was like, guys, you know how storytelling works, right? They've just created the stakes. Like, you know, every issue, Captain America, for example, has to come up against something that challenges him, like something that threatens the status quo, and things will change. And the hero's story is the journey to returning things back to normal and returning things to good. Yeah, so he's Captain Hydra at the moment. but we're only the first issue in.
Yeah.
And do you think at the end of this 12 issues like storyline, he's still going to be like a secret Hydra agent that is really the head of Hydra?
Yeah.
No, he's going to be Captain America again, and he's going to be punching the living crap out of the Red Skull for doing this Hydra thing to him. Like that's how comics work. That's how movies work. That's how books work. It's how storytelling works.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Yeah, it's like going to see Star Wars and, like New Hope. And Darth Vader, like the door blasts in, Darth Vader comes storming in, and you go, well, they're and you get up and you go home. Yeah, well, there's no way they could beat that. I better go home.
Yeah.
No, absolutely. You're right.
But it's actually amazing how passionate and how like the relationship you have with these fictional characters. Like, in lots of ways, like a lot of fans feel an ownership over a character because they have read this character's like exploits. They've essentially been there for this character's life. Yeah. So I can understand why people do get really emotionally invested. Yeah. I mean, you look at the way people carry on about Married at First Sight.
Oh,
Yeah,
yes.
and that's trash. And you'll forget about it 30 seconds after you got annoyed about
When the
it.
new season comes out, like no one even knows what happened last year. Like,
So many of my coworkers are going on about it. I'm like, you have never brought this up to me before, but now all of a sudden, it's the big thing.
Someone was having a conversation with me about it, and I haven't watched it, and so they're like, so that has this color hair. Well, she said to the other who had this color hair, who was wearing a bracelet, to the other cow. And I was like, you're so invested in this show, but you don't actually know any of the people's names.
I think that's such a huge part of Australian culture, maths. Like, I know so many of my friends who actually who are forced to watch it by their significant other, and then they're like, I actually enjoyed it a lot, and I'm like, I don't think there's anything in this world that could get me to.
Then also the international version, like The Bachelor and stuff like that. Like, it's not just the Australian Bachelor.
Is that still a thing?
Yeah.
Wow.
There's like Bachelor Island or something now.
What?
Yeah. It's basically Survivor, but Bachelor. And it's insane how...
Like Wipeout, Married at First Sight coming out.
Yeah.
Oh.
Imagine if they could combine all of those shows into one. And so it was like Married at First Sight, but we're sending you out to Survivor Island.
And then after that, you got to build a house on the block.
With your new partner to make sure it lasts. Yeah.
And the few of you that survive will be made to fight in the Hunger Games for the season finale.
It's basically, what was the Jim Carrey movie? The Truman Show. It's basically the Truman Show. Just spend years watching this couple. Will they, won't they? For 10 years. Till we find a prettier couple, then we move on.
Yes.
Yeah, that's about how the game goes. Oh.
They're not doing anything. Swarm them with bees. They should let us produce some of these shows.
I know, right?
I think we'd bring in a viewer base for them.
That's what we'll do next year for our producer course. We'll produce this show, and that'll be, we'll get graded on it. We'll
Intricate challenge for Gen Z couples. Yeah. That's what we'll do. I think that'll sell. That'll sell.
No, I people just love to like that whole fishbowl thing.
Mm-hmm.
So I think something like Big Brother.
Yeah.
Got to do something like Big Brother. Yeah, so it's all live, all unscripted. Yeah, maybe like 28 contestants go into the house and 2,000 wasps. Tune in Monday.
Some of these rooms you're allowed to go in. You don't know which ones.
How many health code violations does this building have? I don't know, but we got it for cheap, so
And you got to renovate it.
Yeah.
Or you die.
Yeah.
Either way, we make money.
Yeah.
But going back to comics.
Oh. Yeah, I kind of forgot
yes,
that was the
comics.
whole thing. Yeah, that's right.
Comics,
yeah.
yes.
Oh,
Yeah.
Lockie and whatever.
Midnight Press Factory.
Midnight Factory.
Midnight
yes.
Factory Press.
Yes.
I always get it mixed up. That's always.
Yeah, so I've been working with Midnight Factory Comics, and yeah, they're international publisher based over in the US. But we'd like to think of ourselves as a truly international publisher. So what I've been doing with Joseph, the founder of the publisher, is I essentially operate as an Australian arm of Midnight Factory, so Midnight Factory Australia, and we publish the same books that get published for the American market, and we publish them for the Australian, New Zealand, sort of Asia market. And so what we're doing is we're essentially publishing under license, but we have a bit of a twist in that we've worked together for many years, Joseph and I, and there's a trust that's been established. And so when he sort of approached me about continuing to sell the books here in Australia, I was like, that's a fantastic idea. People keep asking me about your stuff. I said, but I'd love to do something that I'm passionate about, which is promote Australian artists and Australian art. And I said, is there a way where we can bring these two things together? And so what we do is we do an Australian edition of every book. So in comics often have multiple covers. So with our issues, there'll be like a cover A and a cover B, sometimes a cover C, and they're exactly the same as the US editions. And they can be found in comic shops all over the world. But exclusive to our region in Australasia is we also have an Australian edition. And in the Australian edition, the cover gets done by a local artist, Camillo, who's a fantastic artist, best known for his covers on Ninja Turtles and like various other like sort of pop culture sort of franchises. And Camillo does a unique cover just for the Australian market. And then we also put supplementary material into some of the Australian editions. So we get pin-ups and like supplementary art done by a variety of Australian artists. I'd love to work towards doing like sort of little mini backup features, having a letters page and that sort of stuff. But it just gives us like a little bit of ownership over our edition and a little bit of uniqueness. And one of the things with comics is, the collectability. And so what we've found is we get a lot of like cross collectability with Americans wanting the Australian editions and then Australians here wanting the American editions. So we feel like this is something that sort of hits the market in both countries, on both sides of the world. And it allows me to work with one of my favourite creators and work with one of my favourite artists here in Australia.
And his art is beautiful. I adore his art.
He's an amazingly talented guy. We actually just did a cover drop last night. He's just done a new cover for We Don't Kill Spiders #3, which is our Norse mystery series. And then he's not only done our Australian edition cover for Murder Hobo #1, but he was actually asked by Joe to provide one of the direct market covers. So he's done the 1 in 10 retailer incentive cover, and that's available to the American market and the international market. And so that's in it's a bit of a milestone for Camillo. That book is available in every catalogue and every comic shop all over the world. With a 1 in 10 incentive, the way that works is basically a shop orders 10 copies of Murder Hobo #1 and they get one of Camillo's covers for free.
Awesome.
Yeah. And so that's really exciting for him. But then having Camillo do one of the main covers, it was like, well, what are we going to do for the Aussie edition? And so we came up with this awesome idea where Murder Hobo is a comedy book and it lends itself to, a bit of silliness. And so I had him get his 1 in 10 cover, completely recover it, and Aussiefy it. So the Murder Hobos have their usual disgusting fantasy garb, as they are murder hobos, but they're all wearing, cork hats There's, cockatoos, clownfish, Winnie Blues, VBs, you name it. There's
Pinnacle of culture.
I
love it. I love it.
We've tried to put Easter eggs for the absolute
Everything.
pinnacle iconography of Australian culture.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and so that's been fun, and revealing that over the last day has been really fun, and we've got a really great reaction to that. And I think the best reaction though was actually Joseph Schmalke. So he's the head of the publisher in the United States, and I could tell that when I sent him this image, there was a while to respond, a little bit longer than usual, and then his response was basically, "I think it looks funny. Don't understand any of the references, so I'll just trust you on this one." But I can't wait for people to see this one and this one to be printed and out there. Yeah, we've had a lot of fun with the cover, but it's just a fun book, It's kind of riffing on like the traditional sort of fantasy tropes. In fantasy, you have stories of like high adventure, bravery, honor, valor. Yeah, these aren't those stories. Yeah, and these guys aren't those guys.
This is where the real deal is. This is where your heart should really lie.
Yeah. The murder hobo is just the one person you don't want as part of your party.
I'm glad that's going for Camillo because he is the loveliest dude you can meet.
Yeah.
I don't think I've introduced you to him, but
no.
when I first met Camillo, like he's got a bit of a stone face, like he, and I was intimidated by him. There's a lot of
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Well, once you get talking to him, he is genuinely just so lovely, and I always look forward to seeing him at the cons and stuff because he's just always asks how you're going and what's going on and stuff, and
he's a really cool dude. He puts a lot into his work. He's very passionate about his work and improving and always getting better, but he's also really passionate about like the community and the fans. So he really appreciates everybody that and remembers just about everybody that comes up to him at a con, to say hi, to get something signed, to compliment him on something, to even just call him an he is a really genuine guy. And despite the stone face, he's one of the friendliest, most approachable people.
100%. Yeah. Well, continuing on with that, like the Australian scene with comics and stuff like that, like how has that kind of been changing over the last few years? Because we were talking last week about content creation. It's kind of starting to grow around here. Is it the same with comics? Like,
well, comics is one of those things, despite people talking about like print dying and comics, eventually comics will be all digital, and people are still making comics, and people are still making like physical comics. Things like webtoons have become enormously popular, and it's a fantastic platform for somebody who's sort of cutting their teeth and wants to learn how to make comics in a really simple format, that sort of one panel scrolling format. But it kind of ebbs and flows. We saw during COVID there was like an explosion of, I guess because everyone was home, and trying to bring some of their hobbies and ideas to fruition. But we saw an explosion of indie comics. But we also just saw a general explosion of like comics from the like small, medium, and larger publishers. I guess addressing that idea that people were going to be at home, they wanted things to do. But I also think, there was a bit of a creative bubble, and comics in a way are like any other art. They're kind of reflective of the time. So when people are going through hardship or they're going through like great triumph, that's when they get inspired to create art. And so you see those ebbs and flows. I think making comics is way more accessible now than it has ever been. Like I said, there's platforms online where you can do simple one-panel comics and upload them yourself. All you need to know is how to take a photo. You don't have to be, like a graphic designer to put your own comic together nowadays. If you want a great quality comic, I have to say, though, it is well worth paying these professionals to help you put your comic together. But it depends on what you're doing your comic for. If you're doing it for you, just do it the way you want. And whether people like it or not, you've created your comic and you've gotten that satisfaction and that enjoyment out of it. If you want it to be a commercial product, then you approach it in that way. Yeah. So you can knock it together, but then, the first thing that you knock together is never going to be your final product. It's never going to be your magnus opus. So, I think one of the key things is to just keep creating.
Keep going.
Yeah. And you can always return to things. Like if you put something together and you feel it didn't work or it didn't find an audience, but you have more to say on that topic or in that world, then return to it, rewrite it, change it, flip it around, figure out what it is that you did enjoy about doing it and change that. But definitely I think with technology changing, there's definitely been like a huge growth in the amount of people that just make comics or are interested in making comics. And sales with comics, like single issue comics anyway, like while they haven't like exploded or really gone up, they've kind of stayed the same for many years. Graphic novels though, and manga volumes, and YA graphic novels and kids graphic novels, that market has absolutely exploded though. And so whereas a publisher could like sort of look to expect to like on shop pre-orders alone sort of sell 10,000 maybe of a trade paperback, you've got things like Dogman that are selling, in the volumes that best-selling novels sell at. And there has been a real explosion. And I think there's a bit more of an acceptance as comics as an art form. For a long time, I think they were seen as sort of like the silly picture books. Or not real reading. But one of the things about comics is like most comics will contain more interesting, unusual words than reading blankets of text in prose. And also, if a kid doesn't want to read, but then they see comic and they want to flick through that and then read those speech bubbles, telling a kid that that's not real reading isn't going to encourage them to pick up Great Expectations. You know what I mean? Or Pride
100%.
Pride and Prejudice.
Reading's reading, right?
Reading's reading. And I've like joked over the years and said that comics are like the gateway drug to literacy. And I think as much of that being a joke, it's so true. I transitioned from reading heaps and heaps of comics to reading books like Lord of the Rings when I was in year 4 and year 5 in primary school. And it was because I had the confidence from reading comics and coming across these weird words all the time. And then when I looked into into The Hobbit and then Lord of the Rings and looked at the words, I was like, I know all these words. And just because there's lots of them, like I shouldn't let that put me off. This is just like reading lots and lots of comics all in one big stack, which I would do all the time. It definitely is that stepping stone, I think, for reading confidence. So, and I think that's one of the things I've seen even with my kids. Like, I know they can read, and they'll sit and read with me, but in their heads, they're like, "Oh no, it's still too hard." When they see a book that's filled with hundreds of words,
especially at schools when they're like, "You have to read this book," and like it's overwhelming for a kid to look at that,
But then when they look at a page of a comic and go, "Okay, well, wow, it's got like 10 speech bubbles on it." But I can read them, and I can fathom that. I can sort of quantify that immediately. And I think it's a fantastic transition, and it was really cool. Before the shop closed, a couple of years before the shop closed, I had started selling a lot more books at wholesale rates to local libraries and local schools and things like that. And that was one of the fantastic things, and what I felt really proud of was finally getting some of the like local librarians and like local teachers that I dealt with for years to sort of embrace just how amazing comics could be for helping kids to read or helping kids to transition between knowing how to read, but actually having that confidence themselves that they can do it, and want to do it. So, and that's one of the things I've always been really passionate about in this industry is getting people to read more. Reading has always been like the main source of entertainment for me, and it's always been like a place that I can go to feel safe, to escape, but at the same time, it's a place I can go to feel immersed and informed.
Yeah.
And so I think that's really important, especially in this modern world where we are bombarded with a whole bunch of information. A lot of it's not real. And two, where you're being bombarded almost 24 hours a day, and we're essentially designed to be eating berries in a cave somewhere,
Yeah.
you know, and so it can be pretty full on.
Yeah. It's great escapism.
It is, yeah.
And you're right, it does feel like it's become a lot more normalized than, like, I remember being in high school and, like, anime and stuff like that was always very like, oh, you're into that. But now it's like, talk to anyone, someone's seen something, someone, you know, there's always that. And like conventions, like, so you're the one half of the creative mind of Geek Markets. We're now Geek Expo.
I work with my business partner Daniel. Daniel founded the Geek Markets almost 6 years ago. And we've recently actually had to sort of evolve and upgrade. We're now the Geek Expo events, and and that came basically from like a shared idea and a shared passion that we'd both come from sort of like poorer socio-economic upbringings, and couldn't, as kids, couldn't afford to go to big things like Comic-Cons. And in Australia, the market and the scene was kind of limited. And so, you know, there wasn't a lot of events on. But when there was an event, it was always way out of my price range, far beyond the realm of me ever being able to attend one of these things. So I kind of imagined what they would be like. Yeah. And I was pretty far off the mark. I was sort of on the mark, but Daniel told me a similar story. And so the idea with Geek Markets was to create this event that had all those pop culture things that we thought would be at a comic convention and bring it all together. And we may not be able to do it on the scale like San Diego Comic-Con, but bring all these different aspects, all these different parts of the industry together for this event and present it as a good old-fashioned market. Yeah. So the idea was basically a flea market where the only rule was what you sold had to be cool. Yeah. And that's kind of where Geek Markets grew out of. Yeah. So wanting to put on that event for people that we couldn't afford to go to or didn't think we'd ever afford to be able to go to. And that's where free entry kind of became like a really big part of what we did. So when you come to a geek event, it's free entry. You don't pay to come through the door. And you basically, you're just free to do whatever you want. Embrace your fandom. Because you haven't had to buy a ticket, you can spend money with local creators, artists, craftspeople. And we just want to provide an environment where people can really feel like they can be themselves and just embrace, you know, those parts of their fandom and their personality. Yeah.
It's been great over the last few years going and just seeing it grow and like you say, like it's free. Anyone can just come, and there are so many people that go through these halls and local businesses, I guess, you know, that are there, and then, you know, you just see. Yeah,
so we get a really great mix of like people, like pop culture vendors from like all up and down the East Coast, people who are professional retailers who might have shops, people who make their living from like online selling or, you know, doing markets and different conventions and things like that. And we get this huge range of creative people who have like a side hustle that's a pop culture craft, people that, you know, use their artistic skills to create unique items, artists, sculptors, you know, makers of all descriptions, you know, people who specialize in high-end collectibles and a variety of collectibles as well. So not just sort of like the traditional sort of, you know, comics and cards. You know, we'll have people selling collectible sneakers, retro and vintage pop culture items, as well as like sporting items and things like that. It's
coins as well. Was
coins? One of our vendors does really well selling like commemorative packs of stamps, and they get like different Australia Post stamps that are pop culture themed, but they also get them from post offices and postal services from all over the world.
Wow.
That was at the last show. They had some Turkish Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle like stamp collections that were brought out for collectors in Turkey.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow, that's cool.
Really interesting and different stuff, and one of the other things is like when you do go to one of the big conventions, like there's a lot of expense involved with doing a big convention. So you've got to really guarantee that you're going to sell enough of whatever it is that you do to cover those costs. One of the things with Geek Market is because we keep the costs so low and we make it free entry, we can have more vendors who are at that sort of hobby level where this thing is just their side hustle. Where they can afford a small table and they can afford to share this passion, this thing that they do with the community. Yeah. So we're really proud about how we've been able to sort of facilitate that. And we're really excited this year, sort of upgrading it all. So, it's over the last few years, it's grown beyond what a market would be. And we just didn't feel comfortable calling it a market anymore because it's evolved so far from those first days where it really was essentially a suitcase market in a shed. And what we put on is more akin to a comic convention or pop culture convention. And so that's the name change. But also in doing that, we actually want to expand like our guest lists. We'd like to offer more content. One of the things we keep hearing from punters is they love seeing behind the curtain with a lot of these like creative endeavors. They love to see how the sausage is made. And so we'd love to be able to work with the creators that exhibit at our shows to give fans that, to give punters that experience where they do get to see behind the curtain. They do get to put their hands into the sausage meat. And so, expanding it in those ways, but very much keeping Geek a community-based, community-focused event. And this year we're expanding out into more cities as well. So we'll be down in Albury, Wodonga. We've got Goulburn is the first one of the year, and that's
talking about that.
Talking about that.
Coming.
So that's next month, 18th of April, and so just a month away. Our Canberra show in the middle of the year, which has traditionally been our flagship market, now becomes the Geek Expo. And it will be a 2-day event. And we have guests, comic book guests coming from all over the country. We actually have a special guest that will announce very soon coming from overseas. It's going to be huge. And you'll be able to meet some of Australia's best comic book artists, one of America's best comic book artists, and a whole bunch of other creators and makers at that event. And that's going to be a big one. So that's 18th and 19th of July. And then, we're heading to Wagga. We'll be heading to the Gong. And then, we'll do our traditional Christmas show as well. Everybody loves the Christmas market. So, we have to give the people what they want. A market of festive cheer.
I remember talking to James Penny, and he was like, you basically got something on every month. There's always something, like it's just blown up.
When you throw in, we've also created a new show, and it's called Collectiverse, and this is a totally like collectors centric show. It's more of a retail show as opposed to a community sort of embracing of pop culture. Collectiverse is about one thing: collecting. So buy, sell, trade. You come in, it's a 1-day event. They're short, they're sharp, they're sweet. The idea is to get in there to wheel, deal, barter, buy, sell, and walk out happy, walk out satisfied. But it's all about creating that environment where you can go in and feel the thrill of the pop culture hunt again in person. It's not the same when you're Googling stuff. You've got to be in amongst it, surrounded by people, but like both putting in offers for the same, like the last pack of like One Piece trading cards or something. There's something about that experience. And so, we've added the Collectiverse shows to our roster. So we did our first one last month here in Canberra. it went
On
fantastically
campus,
well.
wasn't it?
Yeah, it was actually on the campus.
Yes,
here,
that was great. Picked up a Yu-Gi-Oh card.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
No, but yeah, fantastic. We got great feedback about that event. So yeah, we're hoping we'll add another Canberra Collectiverse, but then we're also we're taking that one to Wollongong or Dapto.
Yeah.
So we'll be in Wollongong in May for a Collectiverse there. So yeah, basically every month we have either a Geek show or a Collectiverse show. Daniel also runs the Comic Arts Awards of Australia. So, and this year that's transitioning not to just being an award show, but also being a complete indie comics festival.
Wow.
And so I'll more than happy to give Daniel a hand to make sure that festival runs and is a real success. So yeah, we'll be really busy with these Geek Expo events and various events around Australia. But also, like since my shop closed, I love the pop-ups. I love surprising people and just turning up. I love popping up with James Penny in various places. He's my man lover. And yeah, we
as much as he might complain.
Yeah.
Anytime I go by, oh, you're here again.
Yeah. Yeah. He's a bitter, twisted little garden gnome, isn't he? No, James is fantastic. We love working together. We love doing pop-ups out at his centre in Gungahlin, but also around the Canberra area. And then I love getting amongst it in the community, just in general. Here in Canberra, we've got a really fantastic sort of community, and it kind of transgresses over like lots of different sort of cultural and pop cultural kind of lines. So yeah, I love to get out amongst it. So at the moment, there's a fantastic Korean pop culture exhibition on at the National Gallery, which we've been to a bunch of times. Recently, there was Multicultural Festival in Lunar New Year, and so my children do line dance. And so we get out amongst it with the line dance crew, but also, through that multicultural festival, we get amongst it with the different Samba crews and cultural groups that are out there. And at the end of the day, everybody loves pop culture. Everybody loves embracing like their traditional culture. Yeah. And that's one of the cool things in Canberra, that you can get out amongst it. And Multicultural Festival was amazing. I bought comics at Impact Comics, samba'd with Samba girls, danced around as a lucky dragon with the lion dance crew, and played capoeira dressed as a dragon.
Living
all
the
on
dream.
one day, all in Canberra. Yeah.
As much as a rep that Canberra gets for being a sleepy town, people come out for these events.
Yeah,
like
they show up. We show up.
And that's what I get. There's that kind of cross-pollination in Canberra where someone may not be a huge comic fan, but after they come to the geek markets, we see them at every market.
Yeah.
And then I see them when I turn up to a Samba performance. And then I see them when we're at one of my kids' like Taekwondo displays, And yeah, there is this great community in Canberra where there is this embracing of like fandom, pop culture, and just community.
Yeah.
And I'd like to think that our geek events kind of really just fit nicely into that Canberra tapestry of culture.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
They do. I love hitting up a good geek market with Matt here. I remember the first one. Oh, where was it? Did we go to the one in Gungahlin?
I think you came by briefly for a little bit.
Our pocket pop-up?
Yeah. And then the one on campus. That was amazing.
We got there late to that one, but I heard in the morning it was just
it was insane. It was so packed.
Yeah.
And the atmosphere, it felt like like an old-fashioned trading hall.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was, and that was kind of my vision.
Yep.
And I know that Daniel shared the vision for what we wanted with Collectiverse. So, yeah. And it's one of the funny things, like, so over the years, I've worked with Daniel from the start, putting on the geek market. So he approached me immediately about providing, guests and content for the first markets. And we immediately started working together like a lot closer. And yeah, it's just crazy how over the years, like how quickly it's all just like kind of snowballed
Yeah.
and become this huge community. And it's like Daniel founded the event, got me involved. We do our best to like, you know, put these events on, but it's like you guys, everybody else, just you guys do the rest. You guys make it, you know, these amazing events. But just to see it go from like that so small to just being embraced and so loved is like it's really humbling. It's really nice. And yeah, it just feels like we need places. We don't have venues that are big enough now to sort of spread the love of Geek Expo and Geek Markets. Yeah.
There's Epic is the main one, and then
and we feel like we're, you know, we could put on twice as big a show if we had somewhere where we could put on twice as big a show.
That wasn't just a grass paddock.
yeah. And it's fun, like. We have put on, like, we've got a few under our belt now, and it feels like every single one we both like, is anyone going to turn up? Like, it's like, you know, is this going to happen? Like, will it go ahead?
Yeah.
You know, like, what obstacle is going to stop it from happening? And yeah, and like I said, I think it's just everybody else. It's the fans, it's the punters, it's the vendors, it's our guests. It's everybody that makes these things happen. It's the community coming together. Yeah.
I sort of noticed over the last few, like the cosplay scene is really growing.
Yeah.
Like, and people are getting really passionate and of all skill sets. Like you have people that have, you know, like they've put in the work, they've spent months working on one, and you have people that, you know, it's their first time doing it, but they're just passionate about it.
Yeah.
And you had the cosplay show on in the winter one. Not the winter, the summer one.
Yep.
Yeah. And that was massive turnout.
Yeah.
People
and
just so...
That's one of the fantastic things about like pop culture conventions is seeing all the people come out in cosplay. And I think that's one of the cool things about our events too. Like, whether you've bought a costume and you just want to really embrace your fandom, or whether you are a seamstress and you take your cosplay seriously, we'd like to think there's a little bit of something for all of you at our events. But it's been really great. One of my staff members, Poppy, over the years has gotten into cosplay, and she is a seamstress, and she's an amazing creator.
Crash Test Cosplay.
Cosplay, yeah. And so we've brought Poppy in to help us with running the cosplay stuff and hosting the parade and competition and things like that. And that's been awesome to see her grow in her cosplay, but also great for the events. She's, you know, you meet Poppy and you know she is just so passionate from the second you talk to her about cosplay, and having people who genuinely love the things that are at the event, I think makes a huge difference. It makes there's an authenticity and a genuineness.
Not as corporate.
And also, you know, the people that we like to work with are the people we know who are going to be doing this, like whether we put on an event or whether it's somebody else's event, they're going to be there. So we're just we're pretty thankful that we do have people like Poppy, who is just so passionate and is willing to, you know, step up and, you know, just try to offer the best experience that she can for our punters and cosplayers and people who either want to compete in the cosplay competition or just want to feel like they're part of it, you know, and amongst it.
Right. Well, cool. Thank you, Brendan, for coming. You can get 7 Years in Darkness and We Don't Kill Spiders. And Murder Hobo.
And our dystopian sci-fi book, One Last Trick.
Which I need to pick up soon. That'll be my next one.
It's fantastic. And we'll have number 2 arrive in the next couple of days. And it's got an amazing cover by Camillo. But great book. Really great book.
They are absolutely amazing. Having read most of the works now, they are genuinely...
Well, so Joseph Schmauke, who's like the head of our publisher, he's the sort of main creative force. His his storytelling and his eye are just amazing. Like, there's nothing that Joe brings out that isn't like just fantastic.
Yeah.
And there's so many layers and so much depth. And a book like 7 Years in Darkness, there's such a sort of big fan base because so many people get different things out of it. I love the weaving of like mythology and folklore like through the story, and he's just researched it so well. Other people like, you know, the sort of, it's an Academy of Magic aspect, and in their minds it's like the darkest Harry Potter you could ever imagine. And so people get completely different things out of the same book. And he does just a phenomenal job. So I can't imagine there'll be anything that we bring out, anything we publish that won't be just
Absolutely
amazing.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, and I guess Murder Hobo is probably our only book that I wouldn't say is like absolutely like groundbreakingly amazing, because it's a big joke. It's
That's the
filth.
point.
Yeah,
I'd say that's groundbreakingly
That's why it's amazing, right?
Yeah, I'd say that's groundbreakingly amazing.
Well, and you can catch Geek Markets. Where can we find you?
Oh, so you can find us on Instagram, just Geek Expo AU. You can find us on Facebook, Geek Expo. The website is just being updated. You can still find us on canberrageekmarkets.com.au, but that will get updated very, very soon. And you'll find us in Goulburn on the 18th of April in the big arena.
All right.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you, guys. Thanks for having me.